be. And uh, there's a concern going amongst the populace, for sure, that when the Ford administration put us into lockdown, the deadline, or the moment of truth, let's say, was the 21st. Well, here's the 17th. So we're 4 days away, and the Ford administration is yet to announce, is the lockdown going to be lifted? Is the lockdown going to be extended? Every rational, free-thinking individual on the planet would say that, of course, the lockdown is going to be extended. The numbers are still going up. Every day we're at a higher peak, right? What was the point of going into lockdown in the first place if at the peak of it, while we're still ascending, we just open everything back up and everybody can start shopping again? Also, it's worth pointing out, like, I work at a toy store, guys. I don't know if I've been as upfront as I can be about that. My name is only Toy Store John. I work at a toy store. Opening up a toy store from lockdown 4 days before Christmas is an incredibly stupid idea from a public health perspective. It is not smart. It is the opposite of intelligent. So if the Ford administration is rational, which big question marks on that, they are not going to open things back up. So here's the thing. Either way, right? Either way, this administration loves to leave things to the absolute last possible moment. They really love to. They love to, like, just keep everybody on the edge of their seat, keep hanging on, who knows what to expect, keep everybody on their toes, right? Keep people stewing in uncertainty. And I'm not a big fan of that. From a management perspective, it's a total disaster, right? I've spoken to multiple people who they are on next week's schedule because the place that has been shut down due to lockdown may or may not be open. But are they going to be going to work? How do you plan your life? How do you plan everything around this idea, right? Yeah, how you doing? And how do you plan anything around anything? How do you do anything? How do you make any arrangement? How do you work your life around this whole thing? And then let's say you do plan your life around the whole thing and then everything gets swept up. Or, in my perspective, even worse. Let's say it doesn't get swept up and then suddenly you're in a work environment that has been completely recalibrated to deal with lockdown, which now has to be recalibrated to deal with the fact that you're operating 4 days before Christmas, during the height of a pandemic. So I understand that the Conservatives are kind of in a lose-lose position, honestly. Like, I don't envy them this position. But it's really, really obvious that this is not what the Conservatives signed up for, right? Like, take a look at what the conservative ideology has been for the last 20 years. Even longer than that, honestly, but let's just say 20 years just to be nice to them. No, let's say the last 40 years, because that's accurate. So for the last 40 years, the conservative ideology has been wholesale abandonment, every man for themselves, which they call individualism, and more specifically, that the worst thing that a politician can do is govern, right? That when conservatives elect politicians, they are specifically electing a politician to not govern. That's what they want a politician to do, right? They say it all the time. Small government, right? They want deregulation, They want politicians to get government out of the way of business, right? Like this is all very conservative kind of stuff. So in short, they want a governor who does not govern. That's what they want in power. That's not even me being hyperbolic or critical. That's their position. And so here are these conservatives who have gotten into power and specifically have the intention to not govern. And you can get into a critique of their motives, which to me seems to be very simply privatizing public sector projects and public sector policies and things like this to enrich themselves. I mean, that's not even a critique. That's barely an observation. That's literally what Mike Harris did with the long-term care homes. Like, there's a reason why they're so shitty. There's a reason why the military is releasing these scathing critiques about the conditions in these long-term care homes. It's because you got to pay Mike Harris, right? He owns shares in these companies, and he does no work, he does no labor, he does nothing, right? So how do you pay for it? Well, you cut service and you raise costs. That's what privatization achieves every single time, because you got to pay these worthless middlemen who do nothing. And that's the goal of conservative governments. That's what they do. Again, not a critique, not hyperbolic in the slightest. That's what they do. And that's their stated goal. Like, this is the thing that I keep confronting. I'm consistently confronting people who are like, John, you're being very mean. You're being overly critical. And I'm like, by literally stating what they are saying, like, I'm repeating back to them what they are saying and pointing out what they are doing. And that is being mean. Okay. But I do feel bad right now for these conservatives who are in power, the Kennys, the Fords, the Pallisters, because they got into power saying out loud in front of large audiences, I have no intention of governing. I don't want to govern. I want to cede all power to private interests and let them run the show while I do everything I can to undercut the public sector and clear away the competition for my buddies in the private sector. And here they are having to deal with an issue that requires governance. It requires governance. And they just don't have the chops. They just don't have the chops, right? They're there to pilfer, right? They're there to be plunderers. They're not interested in actually doing anything to help regular people, right? That's not their objective. And I do feel bad for them in a way because, like, they haven't really done the calculation in terms of human cost, right? These are the types of guys that make fun of people for going into the humanities, right? Because if you go into the humanities, you learn things like empathy, you learn things like compassion, you learn things like how to help each other, or you learn things like hubris. You learn things about humanity that you don't learn in a business symposium, right? You don't learn by getting a business degree. Because they see things as just sort of gamesmanship, and they don't actually account for the human cost and for the human suffering, right? When it's actually laid at their feet, they're wholly unequipped to deal with it. Which is why, in my view, there has been absolutely no vision whatsoever on how to move forward from this government, right? Like, their plans and their policies are all last minute and very childish. Like a color code system, like this is like kindergarten grade level. Like this is like something you expect from 8th graders, right? Like, we'll make a color code system. Okay. It's a deadly pandemic. It's not a high school project, you know? like we need serious action But our ruling class, like the conservatives and the liberals, because they work together for the same goals, for the same people, they're not actually that interested in creating functioning governing systems, right? And I think about this a lot. Like when I was growing up, there was talk of nationalization, right? Because companies like Shell Oil, were a Canadian-owned, nationalized company, right? That got privatized. And conservatives would actually say out loud, like, oh, yeah, you got to privatize that, or else other companies won't be able to compete. And I didn't have the wherewithal when I was younger, but now I think back on that and I'm like, well, why the fuck do you give a shit about that at all? Like, who gives a shit if you can compete? Like, you're telling me, yeah, the government can drive prices down, right? Can keep prices low. The government can pay people well. Like, and capitalists complain about this because at the end of the day, they don't like superior competitors in the market. They don't like to compete with people who are better at the job than they are, right? Because how capitalists operate is they make everyone else do the work and they take all the profit for themselves, right? That's what they do. And they are parasitic, worthless middlemen. And they would say it. They would just say it straight out and act as though we were supposed to be affronted by this. That we were all supposed to just go, yeah, let's get rid of the government because they're better at providing services. Like, what? And now I'm seeing all over the place, I'm seeing report after report after report come out and say what everybody under the age of 40 already knows. Trickle-down economics doesn't work. It fails, right? The idea that, like, yeah, we'll just give all the money to a couple of guys and then those guys will reinvest it in their economies. Nope. Like, it doesn't happen. It simply doesn't happen. And it's getting to the point now where, like, to move forward the way that our Liberal Party has moved forward and the way that our Conservative Party is moving forward with these trickle-down economic ideas, i.e. give a lot of money to businesses, it will result in failure. Structurally, it's designed to fail, and we know it. It's just factual at this point, and yet we continue to do it. I can't imagine why. All right, guys, that's the end of me. If you made it to the end of this and you like what I'm doing, if you like the sound of my beautiful radio voice, just hit the subscribe button, hit the like, send it around, share it to your friends. I don't know. I do this every single day. On YouTube, if you're an Instagram type, on YouTube, I do long-form videos that are a bit more personal, less political, or, I don't know, more political. They are what they are. Or if you just want to see my beautiful face more. All right, I love you all, guys. Good luck out there.